folks, how you doing and welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to do a video that I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be talking about. Bear with me. This traces back over the past week or two. I have been reading this book. I finished it. It was a gift from one of my clients and followers. And I've really enjoyed it. I got to, I think it was about the halfway mark. I've always been fascinated with the work of Nostradamus, but I got to the halfway mark of this book and I started to have a bit of an episode with it. I started to fall out with it. It's the first time I've ever read Dolores Cannon's work and had a bit of a wobble with it all. I can't really put it into words why I had a wobble. One of the physical things was the fact that she's working through his quatrains, trying to use hypnosis to talk to his energy to make sense of the quatrains, because the quatrains are very, very cryptic, very cryptic. And as he says, many quatrains can also mean different things as well. He did them cryptic for a reason, but he realized that by doing them as cryptic as he had, humans can't understand them. Many people have tried to decipher them. Many people have done some good work on it, but many people have struggled with it. So she looks at one of the main themes is the Antichrist energy that she looks at. And in this book, everything's going to happen soon. Now, this book was written. Well, the work started in 1986. Okay, so the work started in 1986. And obviously, we're sat here now. And as far as I know, compared to how it comes out in this book, we haven't really come across that yet. Um, in this book, allegedly, it's all going to happen over the next few years, as in the 80s into the 90s. The Antichrist is going to come, he's going to be like something you've never witnessed ever before. He's basically going to smash the world to smithereens. Um, I just got more. I was reading. I was like, well, we dodged that bullet, and it made me think about a video I did a few weeks back where I talked about the Antichrist energy. And I don't believe it's going to be a person. I believe it's an energy, an Antichrist frequency. And I called it anti-love because I know the whole Christ thing, depends on your belief system, may not resonate. I also got frustrated because there were bits in this that was like, it said like two brothers or three brothers. And straight away it was like, that's the Kennedys. There's a whole world of brothers, famous brothers, that, but everything was either America, the Kennedys, or it's going to happen straight away. None of it did. Um, he does say that was one of his quatrains was about the Kennedys, but not all of these quatrains that include the brothers. I found a few of those could have actually been about William and Harry. Anyway, so I finished the book and I was like, okay, I've read it. That's it. And that night I had the weirdest dreams and visions, all including Nostradamus. And Nostradamus trying to explain this book. Yeah. And I woke up and I went, oh, I understand now why they wrote it, what Dolores meant and what Nostradamus meant. I understand it now. I had the answers. Literally, shit you not. Went back to sleep, woke up, cleared. Can't remember a thing of it. So when I remembered, I was like, I'm going to do a video about this because I think many of you would really enjoy a video on it. And then I got so frustrated because it was clear. Now, when something's clear, it's not totally clear. It's just in there somewhere. So I was like, well, I still want to do this video, but I'm not sure how we're going to do it because what I got downloaded has disappeared. It's cleared. And maybe that's part of the experience. Um, so I made total peace with the book because these answers came. And as I'm talking about it, I feel even this book was also cryptic. And the thing is, you can sit with all these quatrains for hours, and the thing is with all predictions as well. I'll just move this to one side. The thing with all predictions, it's up to interpretation, and you can make something look like whatever you want it to look like in that moment to suit your narrative. And like he says, a lot of the quatrains had triple, quadruple meanings. They didn't just mean one thing. Um, I want to share something. A couple of weeks ago, I did a reading. I can't remember what it was. It was a royal reading on the CT Royal Tarot, which is back and it's on CTGT Tarot. The link for all the YouTube channels, by the way, is in the description box. I did this reading where I was talking about, I was shown a vision of Prince William, King William's future coronation. And I said, "Oh, this is strange. Can you even have this as a coronation? Because I'm seeing him sat in a wood on a plinth." Okay, that's what I saw. I said, "I don't know if you can have a coronation in a wood." But anyways, this is what I'm seeing. A couple of days later, they released a video where, lo and behold, he was sat on a plinth in a wood. And I was like, I got that right to some extent, but that's not a coronation. But the thing is, there could be something in that moment when he sat on that plinth in that wood that comes in a download that gets him ready for a coronation, a shift, a download or whatever, an upgrade. It could be the same woods he visits just before he gets crowned. It could be that they actually like, because I was also reminded as well by Spirit that when they got married, they had trees in the abbey. So what I'm trying to say is, it's really important with predictions that we stop trying to box them in and stop trying to make sense of them, stop trying to overthink them, and allow predictive energy to flow in the energy, in the way and in the energy that it's meant to. And if we look at Nostradamus's work and at your own work, if you'd like to do this type of stuff, and my work or anybody else's, and see it as energy that can change and shift at any time, then that makes the whole predictive thing relatable. Because what can happen is if you predict something or somebody else predicts something and it doesn't come out in the way that we then perceive it, we can put a block to our own spiritual practice, our own magic. Years ago, my mum was told by a clairvoyant, I think the story was that she'll get a new wedding, engagement, and eternity ring. Well, she assumed she was going to be getting remarried, but it didn't work like that. She actually did get all of those new, but she got them through my dad. They had an upgrade of rings. So allowing predictions the grace to flow, to not trying to pinpoint it. I know, especially when we're desperate for an answer, we want a date and a time. I get it all the time. Can you tell me when that's going to happen? And I try, but actually, sometimes even that can be out. I also want to say at this point, when I'm sat here or when a client is sat there, if they're in neediness, if they're in fear, if they're in self-doubt, and we read on something. So say somebody says, "Will I ever meet the love of my life?" But in that moment, they're feeling unloved, they're feeling unattractive, they're feeling like they'll never ever meet someone. When we pull the cards, the chances are you're going to be told no. Or if you're dealing with a charlatan, she'll tell you yes. Yeah. A lot of people don't tell people the truth in readings, by the way. And I think as a reader, I wasn't prepared at what you can sometimes see. And, how far do you go with what you tell them? But some readers will be downright determined to tell you everything you want to hear. And healers can be the same because they get scared of clients, they get scared of kickoffs. It's part of the job. Um, if you be a good healer and a good reader, you've got to stop being scared of the feedback that you get because, what's the point in doing the job? You might as well just be a people pleaser all your life. Um, so when you get that information, because you're operating at that frequency on that dense timeline of pain and neediness, you're gonna see on that timeline. And in that moment, you're possibly not. Or you're possibly going to see all the relationships that are going to play out because of that frequency. But if you come in and you don't give a shit whether you meet someone or not, because you're loving your life, because you're happy being single, because you're so in love with yourself, you're so at peace with yourself, you may be told that. So if you think about it, I'm trying to find something with, oh, where's my pad? Oh, it's here. Don't drop everything off that shelf. Oh, that's interesting. Here's one we made earlier, but I actually didn't. Let me just remind myself of the strangeness that's going on in my office. I remember that. Okay, so let's start doing stick men and women. So here she is. Barbara comes in for a reading. So I'll do a stick person. Barbara comes in for a reading. But she's really feeling very low. She hates her life. Okay, she hates her life, right? Now, when we're born, we have thousands, millions of possibilities. There are some things that are set in stone, but there's many different lines and avenues off lines and avenues. You know, like the onion. Well, inside an onion, there's layers. Well, there's layers inside layers and layers and layers and layers. It's the same. So Barbara comes in and she's pissed off. She don't feel attractive. She wants to know if she's going to meet someone, but she doesn't even love herself. So we come and look at this situation, and we see all kinds of things really that she could end up being on her own, repeating these cycles of loneliness. She could end up meeting someone that taps into this neediness and constantly betrays her. She could go from relationship to all of these are possibilities. And all of these are timelines that can happen. And there can be lots of mini timelines in between. Please watch this video with flow. Stop trying to box things in. Someone's watching. I know this video isn't live, but someone's watching this video trying to make sense of it and box it in. Just listen to it. Okay? So Barbara has all of these different realities going on for the future. She also has these different realities going on for the present and the past. She comes in on a day where she's feeling a bit more high vibe, and she comes in up here, she's got even more, and she's still got the lower ones. So as a human being, you've got all of these different realities. So as a world and as a collective, we've also got all of these different realities. And right now, timelines are collapsing at such a rate of knot, it's actually scary at times. And you're seeing it in the news. And before you go at me and say it's fake news, I know fake news exists, but have you noticed that lately something horrific is brewing and then all of a sudden it disappears as if by magic? If you're really sensitive to energy and timelines and cups of tea, you'll be able to feel this. You'll be able to feel it in your life. You'll be able to feel those moments where you think, God, we're heading for something. I've had so much of this where I'm like, I say to Gary, there's something going to be announced today. I'll be vulnerable here and I'll say, we are heading for something big. And I'll have people even texting me, friends that do similar work saying the same thing. They're feeling something and what's going on. And then all of a sudden, boom, you can actually feel it clear and it goes. So when Nostradamus did his original predictions, the world was at a frequency with many different possibilities. And something he says in this broke me because one of the things he says is, as a good reader, if you're doing predictions that can actually be potentially dark, predicting wars, antichrist, as a good reader, you actually want them to be fake predictions because you don't want them to come true. And this is another reason for this book. He doesn't want them to come true. He wants to wake humanity up. So as he comes in then in the world, wherever it was that he was alive, the world was at a frequency, all of these different realities. Don't forget as well that there's me here, but there's past, present, future, all happening at the same time. There's also all my different lifetimes I've got going on right now. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And they visit in the old dense 80s, the densest I think we've ever been in the 80s and the 90s, when we were really, really getting to the tip of the awakening. Everything was just, you look at pictures, everybody looks dense. Um, they're going to get the denseness, they're going to get that potentiality. And again, That book, this video, anything like this can be watched in many different dimensions, in many different frequencies, by many different mindsets. Some people will view certain leaders here now. Some people will read that book and go, that's so and so so and so. That's the Antichrist. That's they will be living and breathing the fact that the Antichrist is here now, and it's him. But you will also get somebody else that lives on the same physical earth, will see the same person, but see the same person as a savior. Or they won't even notice him. They're all true. Everything's true. Do you see how complex it is? So this book that I was like, I can't bear this book, it's triggering me because I because I sat with it and I listened to what he said when he came through. It made sense. Also, as well, I know right now, looking at the world, it can seem deep, dark, and dangerous. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of purging. But that's what it is. It's pain and purging. It's clearing. But I also believe there's a lot of people now that are able to anchor light in enough light for us to swerve a lot of the bad stuff. And believe me when I say some of the timelines for Earth were horrific. People always go, what we all do it, don't we? We always go on about the Voldemorts of the world and the decisions that they make and the them and us mentality. But some of the timelines that could have come in, not even considering this work, could have been horrific. Could have been horrific. Could make COVID look like a walk in the park. Could make Trump look like a knight in shining armor. Seriously. So as we evolve and as we go forward, when we used to go, and I've been this person that has been to clairvoyance in the past with all of these old questions: Will I get money? Will I leave my job? Will I meet someone? And each one has told me very sketchily what I wanted to hear. Um, with some truth in it as well. Um, as we evolve, we're not going to be interested in that bullshit anymore. We're not going to be interested in it because one of the things we're going to be waking back up to is the fact that we are creators. We are creators. We are manifestors. We're also going to be more at peace with who we are. So, in our lives, if it starts to work out that we're not meant to get married or we're not meant to meet someone, we won't give a shit. We won't go into the energy of, is it because I'm ugly or unlovable? It'll be like, right. So, what am I meant to be doing instead? Why did I make that decision? And there'll be layer upon layer of reasons why you made that decision. When you realize you can't have a child, you will go, you'll go into the pain, but then you'll go, what am I meant to be doing instead? This is fun. And this is where we're going to now. We're transitioning into it. And this is what the future human will be. They won't be desperados going to look at psychics for answers. And this is why I try and try and try. It does get difficult to do my readings in the way that I do them. And sometimes I'll get a look of a client that I think wants to nut me over Zoom because I'm not telling her, you're going to get this. Because actually, it's not helpful. It's not helpful. Because, what if there is that day where in your behavior or actions, you're heading for a dense timeline? What if you come to me and say you're heavily into recreational drugs and alcohol and you get a reading that day and I see in the timeline where you're going to die an early death in a gutter because this has actually come up in a session, right? Shit, and you go away with that. Say if you can tell I can see something and you say I want to know and we have to have a talk conversation about it, you have to walk away with that, not realizing that actually if you changed, you'd change that timeline, you'll cancel it. So we can feel when we're cancelling and clearing timelines. So I'll give you an example for myself. A few weeks back, I went to a healing session. I do it. I do it part of a group healing session. It's not one of mine. It's somebody else's that I do once a month. And I came back from it, and oh my God, it was so powerful. I went in there and I sat on the bed and I was looking around. I recognized the wardrobe. I recognized everything that was in there, but I didn't. Everything felt weird and surreal. And I actually, during the session, it went so deep that I could feel myself moving through all these different timelines. And I sat on the bed for hours and nothing felt like mine. And it took ages to ground in. I knew exactly what it was. I knew that I'd gone onto a different timeline. Physically, everything was there. And in some cases, you can get where actually physically things are not there. But energetically, it was a different experience. Sometimes you can have a feeling of loss and you go, but I've not lost anyone, or I've not lost something. Or you can have a feeling of excitement. All of a sudden, you just sat there, this excitement bubbles up. And you're like, what am I excited about? I'm not going on holiday. I'm not doing this. I don't understand. It's because you've shifted onto a timeline, or you've left something behind, or you've left a potential timeline. Over a year ago, I started getting all these downloads that we were moving house. And I didn't even mention it to Gary, didn't speak out loud, didn't mention it in videos, but didn't even Google anything. But everywhere I looked, there was a removal van. It was freaky. And even online, removal companies, and I wasn't even Googling anything. And in the end, I mentioned it because I'm going to have to mention it to Gary because this is strange. And then once I'd mentioned it, he started saying it. And then all of a sudden, it collapsed. It stopped. I think that was there, that timeline, because it was trying to show me that because it takes a lot to settle somewhere, it takes a lot to settle. It was almost showing me a gateway that if you don't fully settle or you feel like you need something else that's there, but I could feel it collapse. It was showing itself, but it went. So if you're doing your own predictions, if you're looking into the Nostradamus stuff, if you're having your own readings and stuff, please be open-minded. Please be open-minded about it. When we're dealing with energy work, we've got to put aside that literal thinking, that black and white thinking, because it doesn't help. It doesn't help. Let's pull some cards on this book. And I think as well with this book, it wasn't as much Dolores as the person that she was doing the work with, the person that was that was receiving the hypnosis. I don't know. It just, yeah, it's the only time I've had an issue. But anyway, let's pull a card on Dolores Cannon's book. In fact, isn't she in spirit? That's interesting. I've just heard Dolores say that the book was even written before Nostradamus came. You see how mind-blowing this is? The book was written before Nostradamus came. The work was done. But it appeared in the 80s. She's kind of saying, remember, none of this is real. None of this exists. Sensuality, feminine wisdom, and passion, clarity, planning, and releasing illusion. Femininity is about flow. I'm being told we've got to stop looking at his stuff as predictions. And if we change the word predictions, Nostradamus has predicted this. Well, if he's a good predictor, he must that'll all come right. And if one dares not to come right, then he's a charlatan. That's bullshit. If we change it from predictions into warnings, think of your parent. If you carry on drinking like that, if you carry on dating them, if you don't settle down and get a decent job, these were warnings, not really predictions. Step aside that old, I'm a clairvoyant of 20 years and I've never been wrong yet. And step into wisdom. These were his warnings of things he could see happening if humanity didn't change. And predictions can change at any one point. I'm being shown you can see something happening in a second, and by the time you've seen it, processed it, it's actually changed. Or it's healed, or it's released, or it's no longer needed. So I'm being shown Nostradamus now in his office, wherever he worked from, and he's surrounded by the globe, the world, and he's got all of these different strands coming off of it, and he's writing it all down. They're not predictions, they're warnings. And warnings within warnings. I'm also being told that humans like to think that they're helpless and hopeless, that destiny is being cruel to them, that they've been given a bad life because they refuse to step into their own power. Because there's a part of humanity that likes to be in that why poor me energy, Five of Pentacle, why me, poor me. Um, that through lifetime and lifetime and lifetime has handed over their power to all different things. And by the time they hit this incarnation, they are powerlessness. They're suffering powerlessness. They can't create. They believe they can't create. So they go looking for the answers. Daytime television, the news, the psychic. Whereas the answer is in here, it's the creator. And I'm feeling that a lot of people that are in that denser energy are getting really triggered right now with the world. They're getting really triggered and they're struggling to release it. They're struggling to manifest something else. It's almost like they're drowning in their dogma. What's dogma? Because dogma's not my word. Um, Dogma. What is dogma? I've heard of it. Dogma. A principle or set of principles laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly, no chance, true. A fixed, especially religious belief or set of beliefs that people are expected to accept without any doubts. See, dogma's not one of my words. Um, the systems that we've had, the old systems, various different systems, have benefited from humans being like that. You look to the vicar for guidance, you look to the politician. Remember COVID, everybody sat down at a certain time waiting for their leader to tell them what they need to do next. When do we put masks on? When do we take masks off? Rather than being able to think for themselves. We can all be guilty of it. Um, and consequently, humans have become quite controllable to a lot of extent. Um, so to actually then get those people that have been, it's like cult. I'm being shown the energy of the world in some respects can be a cult. It can be the same experience has been in a cult, um, where to try to get them away from that can actually be disturbing. I've been reminded of a family I used to live near to, or next door years ago, and they were apparently the worst family in Leeds. So I've got some tales, me. And social services said that because there was a lot of abuse going on, that the kids in that family had got to a point where they were so used to it, they did not want to be taken out of it because it was normal. Outsiders looked in and thought, that is horrific. Those kids were so dogmaed or indoctrinated in that routine, they wanted to stay. I know not every abuse is situations like that. I know not everyone wants to stay in that situation, but they did. And many others do as well. So, being able to see all of the different layers. And I'm also being shown that one particular day, somebody can be, some leader in the world can be the Antichrist, like the energy. Do you know what I mean? Very complex, very complex. A card for this book, please. A card for this book. A card for this book. Peace and trust. It's about finding peace. I know some people have read that book and they've gone on into the reviews and gone at it savagely. It's about trusting it and finding peace. It's meant to bring peace. The book is meant to bring peace. A lot of his predictions have been fulfilled without us really knowing it. Um, a lot have been stopped through growth. Um, a lot of his work as well has been overanalyzed. People are overanalyzing his work. Also, as well, I'm being told that a lot of people are trying to gain their own merits using his work to gain it. There's ego involved in this, being the one to crack the codes. He was a time traveler as well. He was a time traveler and he could visit these different realities and come back and put the information down on paper. Anything else? Nostradamus, a message in relation to his quatrains. A message in relation to his quatrains. You just cannot make it up. Psychic abilities. Oops. Being able to travel through the different dimensions. Being able to see clearly without giving a shit who you're going to upset. And the healing messages. They weren't set out from ego to scare people or to prove I'm right, you're wrong. They were warnings. Take off the word predictions and psych. I hate the word psychic, by the way. I know it says psychic abilities, but I think the psychic word has been poisoned in so many ways. I'm psychic, don't you know? I'm a psychic of 20 years. I've told you that story about my hairdresser, haven't I? That told me the other story about the psychic. Have I not? when I went to my new hairdresser, just talking about my work, and I said I worked from home, and I confided that I did this work, and she was like, "Oh God, I want a guest." She said we used to have a psychic come in years ago, and she scared the shit out of everyone because she came in. Everybody was just sat down, and she came in and started predicting for people, telling people people's dead husbands were there, people's dead parents were there. She just went above and I've been on the receiving end of this, by the way, by another psychic, and it is not good. It's not clever, and it's not funny. And I was totally pissed off when it happened to me. I was told I had a little girl around me. It was so disgraceful. It was on. I nearly. I didn't nut her. I don't know because I don't nut people. But I remember just sat there and I just wanted to blast her because she breached so many boundaries in that moment to do that. You just don't do that. You just don't do it. You don't go up to people telling them what you're feeling, thinking, sensing about them. And I think she was a bit of a fake anyway, but that's between me and you and a few other thousand. Um, I wasn't, I felt so uncomfortable. You actually feel quite violated. So, and I've heard of other stories where people have experienced something similar. So it's about being a master of your craft. And that's going to be a continuous path that you walk when you do this. If you want to do it from a serious perspective, if you're not playing at it, if you want to develop it, to not take the piss out of it. But psychic ability, so message from Dolores Cannon. Dolores Cannon. They're on the same page. Reconciliation. They'd known each other lifetimes. Dolores Cannon, I do genuinely believe, was one of our wise ones. She may not have got it. You don't get it, and I wish people would get this, that you don't always get it right. Sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes it changes. It's part of being vulnerable in this work. Um, but she was one of our wise ones. And one of the things I've always been told about her is one of the reasons why she looked like she did, like a typical nana, towards the end she did, was to make her more comfortable and relatable to people. Rather, because a lot of it now, a lot of the stuff that she talks about, especially the stuff that gets something online, can be by very unrelatable people. Um, Psychic abilities and reconciliation, two masters working together across the timelines, across the dimensions, across the realities. So, taking this back to predictions, how should we treat predictions? Empowerment, but also being aware as well that if you are shown something where it's not going to happen for you, that in that moment, rather than going into, you go into alchemy, empowerment. Say if you go to a reader and your timeline's short for whatever reason, you don't go into fear with that. Say you go to a reader and she's honest with you, or he or she, and says there is no children. You step into your empowerment. It's about empowerment. It's about being thankful for that information because now I know what I'm dealing with. That could be a warning that could actually happen. It could be my destiny. Or it could be something I can change. If you don't put your coat on, you'll get wet. If you don't watch where you're going, you'll get knocked down by a car. That mum could that minute have a vision of her child getting knocked down by a car. And you know something? When she says that to that child, watch where you're going or you could get knocked down, it might not be up to do with them when they're a child. It could be when they're pissed up and in Leeds, when they're drunk as an adult and they actually step out into the road and get knocked down. So that's what I mean about predictions. You can say something and you think you're on about something now, but you're on about it. You've seen it, but it's also coming out in the past. So see predictions as fluid energy, as possibilities and warnings and possible outcomes, but nothing is set in stone. And even if it is set in stone, there is still alchemy to be had in any which moment, any one moment. Be wary of people that want to keep you boxed in. Another one I like to say is, what do you think? Some people don't like that. Claire, I want guidance about what job to go for next. I've got two jobs, and when I say it, if I'm feeling in that mood, I'll just say, "What do you think?" You can sometimes you can see it on the sessions. It's funny. It's not funny, but it is. I remember being that person, and I remember somebody saying to me that, "What do you think, Claire?" And I was like, "Not what I think. What do you think? This is your life. Why are you putting your life and your destiny into a backstreet medium's hands for answers? Surely you rather have guidance about getting your own power back to change your life forever." You've given your life and your power away far too much. If you're going to go forward on this planet, you take that back and you go get guidance about how you transform and alchemize your destiny. And with that, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. Love to all. Next group healing is ready for the 10th and the 11th of June. Chakra system ready for the solstice. Details for that below. Details for all my social media, etc. YouTube channel, website, all of that. Sessions are via Zoom. I never say any of that stuff lately, do I? And I need to say it more often because people put in the comments, do you do readings and sessions? And I do. They're all via Zoom. And don't hide anything from you. Look in the description box, the pinned comments. It's all there. Thanks for watching. Love to all. Bye.